Yo, what is good, Jets Nation? Welcome back to Jets Media. This is Richie, and in this video, I want to talk about some positives and negatives from yesterday's game against the New York Giants, because I feel like there's a lot of stuff that needs to be talked about what the New York Jets did to the New York Giants yesterday. In the final preseason game, the Jets finished 3-0. Robert Saleh remains undefeated in his career with the New York Jets in the preseason. That is pretty awesome to see. He's 5-0-1 as a head coach for the New York Jets in the preseason. Let's see that translate into the regular season for once, instead of us praising some preseason dubs, which is awesome. Not saying there's anything against it, but I think we can all agree here that translating those preseason dubs to regular season victories is what we all want to see. So in this video, we're going to be breaking down a lot of players that really stood out to me, and spoiler alert, there's a lot of positives compared to negatives here, because yesterday was a great day. And I know I'm going to talk about both the positives and the negatives, but there's a lot of players that really stood out to me on both sides of the ball that I'm really excited to break down in this video. So it's Michael Carter II. So it's really cool to see him go out there and perform yesterday against the New York Giants. I just feel like the interception he had was awesome, and the sack he had. He's just gonna have a really big season in year number 2, and I'm really excited to see what he can do. The second guy I want to talk about is Quinnen Williams. Quinnen Williams, in his limited time on the field, I think he played 2 series in total. He did not really, this was the first time seeing him in the preseason, because he's been dealing with some injuries, and he's been dominating camp. Every single time he's out there and healthy in practice, he's been dominating. But this was the first time we saw Quinnen on the field, and he had a sack. He looked disruptive. He had energy. It's everything that we're expecting from Quinnen Williams' breakout season, because he is a big X factor for this team for so many reasons. And I think all Jets fans already know this. It's obvious. But Quinnen Williams has been an average to an above average defensive tackle in this league. But when we drafted him with that 3rd overall pick a bunch of years ago, we expected him to be one of the best in the entire league. If you're drafting a defensive tackle with the 3rd overall pick, especially at the time, he was looked at as like the best prospect in the entire draft class, and all the hype was around Quinnen. And Quinnen would even tell you that he has not hit his peak where he feels like he can become a guy that's a top 3 guy year in and year out. And I think Quinnen Williams has all the traits to be that. I think the only issue so far with Quinnen Williams, and it's not even an issue, he's been a good player for us, but he's just been not consistent throughout the entire season. There's a bunch of games where he disrupts, takes over the game. Quinnen Williams, like 2 sacks, just looks like a monster all 4 quarters. And then he goes out there in the next 2 or 3 games, he's kind of like disappearing a little bit. And I think a big thing that has to do with that is Quinnen Williams is always the one to be double teamed, always the one to focus on. The opposing teams are doubling him, and that does have something to do with it. And John Franklin Myers even said to Quinnen himself, I thank him every day because he's giving me my one-on-one opportunities while Quinnen's eating up the doubles. So I think this season with Quinnen Williams, with next to John Franklin Myers, next to Carl Lawson, next to Michael Clemons and Jermaine Johnson, and all these players that the Jets added to this defensive line, I think that it's inevitable that Quinnen Williams is going to have a breakout season this year if he stays healthy. I can see him get 8+ sacks, potentially reaching 10 sacks. I really feel like Quinnen Williams has all the traits to break out this season and prove to be that 3rd overall pick. Really cool to see him disrupt it in his preseason debut this season. The next player I want to talk about is Sauce Gardner. Now, he was quiet today. You probably didn't even realize Sauce Gardner was on the field. Want to know why? He didn't get targeted. And that finishes the preseason for Sauce Gardner. 3 games, no targets. The ball did not get thrown to Sauce's side of the field. Now, for Sauce to have that happen to him in the preseason in the first 3 games tells you a lot. Teams are not throwing to that side. It's not like 1 game and it's like a small sample size. We saw 3 games, and obviously it's not the entire game, but I think he had 20 or 22 something around there, like passing coverage snaps. And all those times they did not look his side. Now, if you look, it's hard to look at Sauce highlights in preseason because the ball's not getting thrown his way. But when you dive into the film room and you're watching every play, and you see the ball go somewhere else, but you're just watching Sauce on his reps. I mean, he has all the instincts you would want in a rookie cornerback. In zone coverage, he knows where he needs to be. He just has a really good feel for the game, and it's just obvious that he's going to be a beast. I mean, he's going to have some mistakes here and there as a rookie. We cannot expect him to be perfect. He's going to get called for a couple penalties. He might get beat here and there. It's his rookie season. We cannot expect Sauce Gardner to be perfect from day one because that's just unrealistic putting on a rookie. I think he's going to ball out a lot. I think he's going to become one of the top young corners immediately in year number 1. But I do feel like we have to understand that he's a rookie and he might make some mistakes. But what we're going to look at is Can he learn from those mistakes? Is he repeating those mistakes? That's what I'm excited to see from Sauce. Another player that had a good game is Braxton Berrios. That touchdown he had was beautiful. A nice little screen pass from Mike White, making someone miss behind the line of scrimmage. And there's like 3 Giants in front of him, and he just turns on the Jets, escapes them, tiptoes down the sideline. He squeaks in for the touchdown. I genuinely feel like Braxton Berrios is another such underrated player on this team. And it's not like it's just like we're sleeping on him. It's just because there's so many guys on this team that we're excited about, like Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore and, you know, the new tight end room and Conklin and Uzama and all those guys. So we're kind of forgetting about Braxton Berrios. And I feel like this is going to be Braxton Berrios' most productive season of his career with the New York Jets. And I know that might be a bold take because of all the playmakers around him with Corey Davis and Elijah and Wilson and the tight ends and the running backs. I hear that. But I really feel like Braxton Berrios is going to be heavily involved in this offense, like with the starters. You saw him out there with the starters with Joe Flacco. Like, he's the top 4 receiver, and this system requires 4 receivers out there. Not at the same time, but they're rotating those 4 guys in and out, and you might have all 4 of them out there for a play or two in certain formations. So I really feel like Jets fans need to expect Braxton Berrios to get a pretty good target share in the offense. I think it's going to be evenly spread around. I really feel like this offense is going to be fun to watch in terms of the weapons. And we're going to have to get into Joe Flacco at the end of the video where the negatives kick in about what he did yesterday. But it's okay because we're talking about Mike White next. Mike White had his best performance of the preseason, had 2 touchdowns, very efficient with the ball, really had good timing with his receivers because the first 2 games of Mike White in the preseason, he kind of underwhelmed us. You know, we're expecting Mike White to be what he was last year for us when he came in and was a beast. But Mike White didn't really do anything crazy, and Chris Streler was the guy that everyone was falling in love with, and people were forgetting about Mike White. So it was really positive to see Mike White, you know, bounce back in his 3rd game with the Jets this preseason and look like the Mike White we all fell in love with last year. A great touchdown to Jeff Smith before the half kicked off. He was finding Denzel Mims a lot early. So it's good to see Mike White get into rhythm. Denzel Mims is the next guy to talk about. Denzel Mims, I mean, this is the star of the day. He's the star of the day. 7 receptions, 100+ yards, 1 touchdown for Denzel Mims. And I really do not want the Jets to trade him. I understand Denzel Mims requested a trade. I understand that there's a whole business element to this. But if I'm the Jets and Joe Douglas, I go up to Denzel and I'm like, listen, I understand that you're frustrated. You want to play. You want to be a starter. But we value you on this team. And we want you part of this franchise. Like, you might be wide receiver 5 and wide receiver 6, but like, injuries are a part of the game, and Denzel's going to be playing for the Jets this season if he's on the roster, if we don't trade him away. Like, that's inevitable. So I want the Jets to keep Denzel for a multitude of reasons. For depth, we all know injuries are part of the game. I don't want to talk about them because they're scary to talk about. We don't want that to happen. But I have a lot of confidence in Denzel Mims this season if his name is called, if someone has to go down, or if someone's a little tired and Denzel needs to sub in. What we saw from him Sunday was awesome. I mean, that's the guy that we all expected out of Baylor. Now, yes, it's against the backups. He's playing with all the 3rd stringers, and I understand that. But this is the first time we're ever seeing Denzel Mims in shape, healthy, a full offseason, a clean bill of health, and he is right at his peak that he's ever been in his career in the NFL, which is why he wants to get traded, because he wants to be used as a starter, because he feels like he's ready to go. He does not feel like he's a backup receiver, and I respect that. I respect Denzel Mims believing that, because I agree with him. I think he's too talented to be a backup. But hey, guess what? The Jets have a stacked wide receiver room all of a sudden with Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, and Corey Davis and Braxton Berrios, where Denzel Mims can't crack it. That tells you how actually talented and like this wide receiver room is, and it should be very highly productive. So without trading Denzel, it keeps the wide receiver room even better. So hopefully they hold on to him. Unless Joe Douglas gets blown away by an offer, I don't really expect Denzel going anywhere, to be honest. The next guy I want to talk about is Michael Clemons. Okay, this guy has proved to be the fan favorite already. And he's one of my favorite players on this Jets defense already for this one reason. He never gives up. His motor is absolutely ridiculous. Every single time the ball is live, he is sprinting towards the ball, whether it's the quarterback evading pressure, rolling to his right, rolling to his left. Michael Clemons is always just sprinting at full speed. I mean, he basically injured Tyrod Taylor, and I don't want Michael Clemons to be that guy that just injures quarterbacks, right? That's just not good for the league. The NFL does not want that to happen. It was a very clean hit, I will say, Michael Clemons on Tyrod Taylor, but what I'm trying to say is I love how violent he plays. Like, Michael Clemons plays with violence, and we said that when we drafted him, that he's a Robert Saleh guy, like he's going to fit the system perfectly, but now we're seeing it with our own eyes. All 3 games, like his motor that he plays with and his sense of urgency and his demeanor and his passion for the game really just speaks through the field, and it's awesome to see. So he deserved a star in yesterday's game and throughout the entire preseason, of course. And then got to bring up the next player on the defense, which is Kwon Alexander, simply because of this hit. This hit is so animated. I mean, it looks like it's straight out of Madden. Like, you see the guy just get blown up, and the Giant player, his arms are flying all over the place, balls out. I wish we recovered that ball, but it's okay. This does not take away anything from how phenomenal this hit is from Kwon Alexander. Now, is Kwon Alexander going to be the starter next to CJ Mosley? That's a big question. A lot of people are asking that. I don't think so. It's according to yesterday, Quinnen Williams is the starter alongside CJ Mosley, which I do feel like Quinnen Williams still has a lot of proving to do. I do like his violence that he plays with, and I do like his ability to, just be that pursue guy, but we all know that he has a lot of things to clean up, and Kwon Alexander is definitely the more established guy, but the Jets are really trying to prioritize development with Quinnen Williams. That's what it seems like. But Kwon Alexander is going to be out there with the starters on certain packages. There's no doubt about it. It's not like he's not going to see the field. Excited to see what he can do. Big time linebacker acquisition for the New York Jets this offseason. The next guy, let's transition to the offensive line. Laken Tomlinson. Oh my gosh, did you guys see this clip yet? He destroys this pass rusher, and him and Dwayne Brown just double teamed them. This is a great thing to see, because Dwayne Brown is the other guy I was going to talk about after Laken Tomlinson, because he had a phenomenal day as well. But Laken Tomlinson on this rep shows you that he already has chemistry with Dwayne Brown. He's like, yo, I got you, Dwayne. Boom! I mean, absolutely just chucks him to the ground, to the turf. And there was another rep. I think it was the first offensive snap of the game for the New York Jets offense. Laken Tomlinson absolutely just destroyed it. I don't know who it was, but it was a run play, and I think Michael Carter got the ball, and he went like a yard or two. It wasn't even a big run, but I saw Laken Tomlinson just destroy a Giants defensive lineman, throws him to the ground, he lands on top of him, and I was like, oh my gosh, Laken Tomlinson's a Pro Bowler. He's proven it already. So Laken Tomlinson, a big-time positive, looks like an absolute monster. I mean, he is going to make this offensive line so much better for so many different reasons. And then talk about Dwayne Brown, his debut for the New York Jets. First time we're ever seeing him in preseason and as a Jet in total. So he had a perfect debut. He had 0 pass pressures allowed on all the pass snaps that he was out there. Then he did not allow anybody to touch the quarterback. That's what you want to see. I mean, he's out there to protect the blind side of Joe Flacco and Zach Wilson when he gets healthy. So that's a good sign, because we need our offensive line out there. I wouldn't say the offensive line was perfect. I do feel like in the run game, it could have been a little better. But pass protecting wise, I don't even think we did. I don't know the stats in front of me, but did we give up a sack? Did Joe Flacco, Mike White, or Streler get sacked once? I don't even think so, but correct me if I'm wrong in the chat, please. In the comments. Now, for the finale of the positive players, I think you guys are wondering, when am I going to mention him? Because this is the MVP of the preseason, the MVP of the game. He goes by the name of Chris Streler. Chris Streler. Are you kidding me? This man has proved to be a top preseason quarterback I've ever seen. Like, literally 3 straight games. He leads all the Jets to the victory at the end of the game against the Eagles. Game winner to Calvin Jackson, who was another star of the game. Week 2 did the same thing, came from behind after gets checked in the game down 16-3, and he forces the Jets to come back. Last game against the Giants, the game winner on 4th and goal to Calvin Jackson, the same exact route, the same exact play that they ran against the Eagles. So Chris Streler deserves all the praise, man. It's really great to see that his story just unfold, and I'm excited to see his future with the league. Wherever he goes, I'm really going to be following Chris Streler because he was awesome. Now, getting into some of the negatives, a big negative is definitely the starting offense just not looking good. I mean, they look good, right? Let me rephrase that. The starting offense only putting up 3 points on the Giants' backup defense. That is definitely something that I don't really like to see. And Joe Flacco is, I think, a big part of that. Joe Flacco didn't really look as good as I wanted to be honest. He didn't look terrible. He did have a lot of good passes to Tyler Conklin over the middle, Berrios to a little nice. And that time where Michael Carter had that fumble, Joe Flacco's pass on that was pretty sick. I mean, Joe Flacco stepped up in the pocket and threw like a sidearm pass to Michael Carter on 3rd and 10, and Carter picked up the first down on that, but he obviously gave up the ball and fumbled it, which resulted in a turnover on downs. I do think this offense would have been a lot better if it wasn't for that turnover, because it would have been 1st and 10 at like the 15-yard line. So I think that fumble from Michael Carter was a big negative to the entire cohesion of that starting offense. But then Joe Flacco just threw that crazy interception. I mean, this can't happen in the regular season from Joe Flacco. It's a broken down play. We all know that the one thing we're worried about Joe Flacco is he doesn't have that ability like Zach Wilson does athletically to just, make people miss behind the line of scrimmage with his legs, juke people out, rolling to his right, extending plays. Like, Flacco's going to be able to do that, but he can't just be doing stuff like this. You're a 37-year-old, 15-year vet in the NFL. This is not what you want to see from Joe Flacco. He needs to understand that you can't take a risk like that, especially backed up in your own end zone, resulting in a pick six. That's just not what you want to see. So the starting offense is the only negative I can think of, because outside of that, I love what I saw from the entire team. And the starting offense is definitely the one thing that just raised a little bit of concern, but I don't think it's going to translate to it's not something to really panic about. They have a lot of more practices to go in terms of, connecting to each other. I feel like Elijah Moore, Garrett Wilson, and Corey Davis and Braxton are really going to help out whoever the quarterback is this year, as well as the running backs and tight ends. So that's really my thoughts, guys, of the Jets and Giants' biggest takeaways, positives and negatives. Let me know your thoughts. This is a longer video, but I just felt like I had a lot to talk about that game yesterday, and I wanted to talk more in depth about it instead of just recapping it after the game like I did yesterday. I want to really dig deep into individual players, and let me know your thoughts down below in the comments if you enjoyed the video. And also comment down below a jet emoji if you stayed into the end. I'd love to hear you guys have to say in the comments. Please like the video if you enjoyed, and I'll catch you guys in my next one. Let's go Jets. Peace out.